My name is Jenna, and I host this weekly session, the Fraudcast with Vito, every week. Welcome to the Fraudcast. I'm just going to give a quick overview of what the Fraudcast is all about, and then I'll hand things over to Vito to talk to you guys more about holiday prep. This whole month of August, we've been pretty dedicated to holiday prep conversations and helping you guys prepare for the fraud Super Bowl coming up around the corner. So yes, the Fraudcast is a weekly session that we host for folks in the e-commerce fraud and risk space to talk about trends, get advice, and it's a really great place for you guys to get advice on what you're working on, things that are sitting in your queues, and for you to crowdsource some solutions with other professionals that are in these sessions. Just a heads up, we do record these sessions so that we could share them with folks who are not able to join us during this time. Don't be a stranger. Please introduce yourself in the chat, whether you have attended before or this is your first session. Please introduce yourself so we have an idea of who we're talking to here, with your name, title, company, where you're calling from, and your LinkedIn if you'd like to connect with others on the session. And please feel free to participate. This is not a webinar or anything like that. It's not a trends readout. This is intended to be a conversation for all of you, an open space. So feel free to post in the chat throughout or come off mute and be part of the conversation with us at any time. And with that being said, I'm going to hand things over to Vito.
What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. It's so good to see you. You know, as Jenna was talking there, it brought me back to a little David Byrne, a little Talking Heads. He says, this ain't no party. This ain't no disco. This ain't no fooling around. I think it's opposite for us, though. You know, this ain't no webinar. We're here to chat. I'm so happy to see you. I got so much to share with you, kind of based off the last few weeks, the great guests we've had. We had Kelly come on and just drop knowledge bombs. It was awesome. So I've been partnering with a certain celebrity chef to deliver something to you today that I think is going to be very valuable for your holiday experience, both at home and at work. Before I get there, though, a little bit of shameless self-promotion. If you look in the chat, I've got linked there the Fraudcast YouTube channel where all of our recordings are uploaded. Why am I putting it there? Of course, like, subscribe, buy my t-shirt, maybe we could work together to make a t-shirt. Don't have one. And I'm not hawking nicotine pouches on there either. But a lot of this stuff that we cover has been covered before. And, we just kind of build on it. We keep learning more. So if you haven't seen some of these episodes, it might be really helpful for you. Number two, and this is what I'm super excited for. If you look down a little bit there, I have riskwithvito.substack.com. That is my weekly newsletter. And I always try and kind of get it connected to what we're going to talk about today. And indeed, it is connected to what we're going to talk about today. And I've got like handy flowcharts and graphs for you to take what we're talking about and turn it into something real, because that's the name of the game here. I want you to be able to take something out of these 45 minutes and turn it into something real, some real profit dollars for you and y'all, so that you could say, you know what, I didn't waste much time on Wednesday. I actually got something that is producing some good value for us. So check those two out if you're interested. If you want something different, whatever, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or wherever. I'm happy to, tailor things toward your experience. But with all that, with no further ado, let me get into the old decaroonie that I've got here. And you're going to see this celebrity chef. I'm so excited for you to find out what I've been working on with Monsieur Ramsey here. Where is he? Okay, boom. Yes, it is indeed still Christmas in August, right? As we're getting ready for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And when we get ready, it's not like we have to just say, okay, time to November is X amount of days. There's stuff that we could be doing like right now and really just for the next few days. And that could really help what we've got going on. And I'm going to show you that today. If you want to take screenshots, of course, this will be recorded, but if you want to take screenshots to bring them back with you, feel free to do it. I'm off the record all the time. Well, I guess I'm on the record. I guess we're being recorded. So here we go. Welcome to Chef's Corner, my friends, hosted or sponsored by the one and only Gordon Ramsay. And of course, it is the holiday edition. So Chef Gordon is ho, ho, ho happy to get us in the mood to bring more profit dollars into our businesses in the coming days, weeks, and months. And of course, he's got nightmares. He might even have what they call kitchen nightmares because we all share these nightmares, my friend. One of them being when Black Friday, Cyber Monday runs rampant on us. The traffic is skyrocketing through the roof. The manual review queues are clogged up. Those bots are showing up, those agentic purchase bots through Perplexity, Claude, ChatGPT, and elsewhere. And maybe we're not prepared for that. And finally, you've got this verbose, overblown decisioning rule set that you haven't really put the lid on. You haven't really taken the time to make up or down on. And that might be deleteriously affecting whatever comes through in the coming days, weeks, and months. So I've got a cookbook for you in terms of how you can knock all of these nightmares out. And this cookbook was actually hawked by Chef Ramsay himself. You'll see in a few slides. I got a promotional pic of it. And it includes these chapters. Number one, the concept of the trial year that Kelly blessed us with last week. This is your trial year for agentic commerce. You might not see a ton of traffic. Maybe it's 1 to 2% of your traffic, but you will see it. I guarantee it. You're going to see agentic traffic. My cookbook, aka mine and Chef Ramsay's cookbook, is going to show you how to find it and how to make it super tasty, how to season it properly. There you go. A/B testing. This is something I've just heard so much over the last few weeks, and I think this is such a great path forward. We have so many things that we're maybe conceptually hung up on. What gets sent to manual review? What gets auto decisioned? What gets auto approved? What gets auto declined? What our teams are forced to look at. Now is the time that we can A/B test effectively, see the impact in very small doses, and then spend a month ruminating on it and say, well, do I do this when, traffic spikes? Do I stay away from this? Was this a good idea? Now is the time to test, and I've got plenty of test kitchen style things for y'all to consider. Finally, the method. Il metodo. We talked about this back in March. I've refined it a bit. The method is methoding. And if you read my newsletter post from today, I went into detail all about the new and improved version of this method. And we're going to go through it today as well. It's also in the newsletter, so you can enjoy it and you can take it into your own practice, into your own bag of tricks. We're all like jazz musicians here. My buddy Jeff, I know he likes to go up and down on the pentatonic scales when things get a little hairy, right? I'm going to give you your own pentatonic scale to play with here when things get a little wild come holiday season. So here's the book. You can see there's a real picture, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Fraud Prevention and Revenue Optimization Cookbook, signed by Chef Ramsay. He was just very sweet to me with this. I'm getting 10% of it. That's crazy. So you might not see me here in a few weeks when those royalty checks start coming in, my friends. All right. So here's the first chapter for free for all of us here at Fraudcast University. The trial year, saying hello to your new agentic friend. Cue the Scarface impression there. Say hello to my little agentic friend. I don't know how many of you use Looker. Okay, I'm a Looker guy. I love Looker, and this is a really ugly Looker string here. But I use this Looker string to surface orders that are coming in through bots, and I'll show you what it produced for me when I was looking recently. Again, there's nothing better than like screenshots from a spreadsheet. That's real. Like they're gonna hang this up in the Met, right? This is like Guggenheim level stuff for you. But this is what it produced for me. At the very top, this JavaScript browser string, the agent/Amazon buy for me, it's pretty obvious right there. Amazon has that buy for me agent where if you're on Amazon shopping around and you want something that's just not there, they will literally go out into the web and find it for you, go onto different websites and buy it for you based on what you were looking for, whether a certain size, certain color, certain price point, etc. This is passed through the JS browser string, the JavaScript browser string. And then you see all of these other ones. And what's really interesting, or what's really worth your focus here in this, you know, this eye exam that I put on the screen here, is that last bit where it's got the URL. There's a plus sign next to the URL. You could see this one came through Price Spider. These are all Google bot kind of scraped situations. Then you have the Claude bot, Anthropic, right? You've also got the more Google bot action. I've surfaced all of these through this Looker string here. If you're asking yourself, well, I don't have Looker, how do I do this? Here are your donuts, my friend. Take a nice screenshot of this. You might want to exclude the image of me in it. You don't want to scare people here, but take a nice screenshot of this. Slack your CISO, Slack your best friend who's on the perimeter defense team, Slack a security engineer and be like, yo, how do I see this? How do I find this? Are we looking at this? Do we get this? Start that conversation now, because a couple of things might come from that conversation. Number one, they might say, all right, let me look into it. Oh, crap. We've blocked a lot of these upstream. You've never even seen them at decisioning level, which is like the big red flag, the big siren, the big klaxon going on. Like if we're blocking these upstream outside of decisioning because we've got maybe a very strict perimeter defense against bots, against crawlers, you're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table come holiday season, because like I said, even if it's just 2% of your traffic, think about how impactful that is. I should subtract the just from that. If it's 2% of your traffic, that's a lot, right? Now, the other possibility of that conversation is you ask for further information. They're like, yeah, look, these orders that have come through in the last few weeks are using those bots, those JavaScript browser strings. Then you could take that internally to your own fraud team and say, y'all, how are we performing on these? Are we approving? Are we declining? What's going on? And you could drill into those orders and say, well, we approve a lot of them, but we leave a lot, in the cold. We've declined a lot. And that's a valuable insight right there. How do we perform against agentic? How do we perform in the face of agentic? That is a conversation you absolutely need to start having now. Maybe the third scenario is they come back to you and say, yeah, we haven't seen any of this. All right, cool. Can you help me to create an alert where like the second something comes in like this, I get notified and maybe it surfaces that investigation ID for me, that order ID, and then I can see it? Because once you see it, you can share it with your team and you can be the real, big dog and say, hey, look, agentic's here, y'all. Like we've all been talking about it. This is what it looks like. So definitely take a screenshot of this, send it out in Slack. Tell them I said, what's up? We could all jump on a call if you'd like to. You know where to find me. That's chapter 1 for you. Now is a very fun chapter. And I want to talk about this a lot today. The A/B testing element. Today's Wednesday, the 20th. We have what? 9, 10, 11 more days in this month. For 7 of those days, for 5 of those days, even for like 3 of those days that are left in this month, you could be doing some very effective A/B testing that will result in mucho dinero come Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Here's what you need to consider. Okay. Think about the things that happen automatically. You automatically attribute a hold state for certain groups of orders that go to manual review. Why you do that is completely subjective. And not saying like, why are you doing that? But like the criteria for that hold state is completely subjective to y'all. Maybe orders that are over a certain amount get sent to hold state. Maybe orders that are placed in certain channels from certain buyer types, i.e. guest buyers operating on mobile app, get sent to the hold state. Whatever it is, we want to consider the who, what, when, where, why, and how around that. And similarly, the things that we auto approve and the things that we auto decline. Those are all, governed by logic either of your creation or your predecessor's creation, or maybe even your boss's creation. Now is high time to consider that and consider it against certain metrics. Like I said, CLTV, the total spend of a buyer throughout the course of their lifetime with you, how long they've been a buyer with you, their buyer age. Maybe that's part of the governing logic here. Again, order channel, mobile app, web, phone, people are calling into support, chat. Maybe you even have, maybe you're really evolved and you already have an order channel for agentic, for bots that come in. You will have it soon, right? But consider the order channel, and then you can add on your signal specific risks, stuff like IP billing distances, the browsers that are used, how long somebody spends on a page. All of these are criteria for decisioning based logic, whether you're holding, auto approving, auto declining. Now, the question becomes, yeah, I know all that. I have the logic. I see the logic, but I don't know how to tell up from down, right from wrong, black from white, zero from one when it comes to the logic that I'm using. A lot of my logic in this hypothetical sense is governed by, hearsay or things that I've kind of taken for granted. How do I show empirical proof around the logic I'm using, why I'm using it? Well, guess what? That's where the method comes in. And let me see if I could do my Italian here. Il Petruzzellismo, all right? That's what I'm calling it, my friends. Where does the method come from? What am I talking about? What is this guy getting at? Well, I had a misspent childhood of learning a lot about historical football managers, soccer managers. I'm sorry. I'm trying to shed my American here and put on a little bit of my continental European hat. And Vittorio Pozzo was the great soccer manager of all time, Il Vecchio Maestro, the only manager in the history of that game to ever win the World Cup, not once, but twice. No one else has ever done that. This is like Bill Belichick on soccer steroids right here, my friend. And Mr. Pozzo's claim to fame was that he kind of redid how people put their players on the pitch. Now, you got 11 players in soccer. The way it was traditionally done back in the day, and this is like pre-World War II, was this WM setup here. Just to get you up to speed on it, this WM is very defensive. You've got 5 people hanging out in the backfield, 3 fullbacks, 2 halfbacks that are really kind of just staying at home because they're terrified that someone's going to put the ball over your head and score a quick and easy chippy goal, right? What our friend Pozzo did was develop Il Metodo, where he kind of put people in different positions. He changed his back line from 3 to 2. He put 2 guys out on the wing that are going to go up and down the field, support the attack, come back on defense. And then he revolutionized this position right here, the centro mediano. This is a holding midfielder. This is somebody who would bridge the gap between the defensive motion and that offensive drive. If any of you are soccer fans here, Andrea Pirlo was like the great player, the architect in this position, kind of make that 30-yard pass right as the defense gets the ball and then set up an attack immediately. Really cool stuff. But if we bring this into our fraud world, what am I getting at? How am I going to use this to figure out my auto decisioning cues, my holds, my auto approvals, my auto declines? For the sake of our conversation, my friends, the central midfielder, the il centro mediano, is going to be gross loss rate. How do we calculate gross loss rate? Take your approved chargebacks either by dollar or by count. I prefer doing it by dollar. And then divide that by your approved orders. Again, either by dollar or count, but I prefer dollar. Multiply that by 10,000 so you could talk in that hidden esoteric language of bips, basis points, my friend. It makes you sound really cool at your next cocktail party. Trust me on that one, right? So you set up your playing field and you figure out who your players are. This allows you to see where you can attack, where you should go back on defense, and it allows you to spin up a much better narrative around this data that is just voluminous and overwhelming and has really just been relegated to the league of hearsay and, well, we used to do this. We just did it because we did it. It allows you to dispel any of those kind of rumors around things. So take this, for example. I chose an order of vintage where everything was earned out already. We're looking at Q4 2024 here from October 1 to January 1, 2025. All of those are earned out because those orders are outside of 120 days and beyond the kind of window for disputes and claims. So when we look at that vintage, we can truly see, okay, we approve this. It didn't come back as a chargeback. That is proof that it was a good order. We declined this. We don't know, right? Because if we decline something, we'll never know if it comes back as a chargeback. But it allows us to really say our approvals were true and real to see if a chargeback came. Because we did this over the last week, 2 weeks, a lot of the stuff we approved might still come back with a chargeback. Once we do this, we can take the formula I gave you earlier, which is your approved fraud and your total GMV, your approved GMV, and develop your gross loss rate. So for this example right here, we're sitting at 6.3 bips of gross loss rate by GMV, by spend, by dollars and cents. And to further it out, I've added my approval rate. So we had 6.3 bips of gross loss rate on a 96.56% approval rate. You should be immediately saying to yourself, if I do the math, 6 bips is 0.06%. If I do the math and I've only approved 96.56% and I've got 6 bips of loss, what about the other 3.5, 4% of traffic that I declined? Was that all bad? Was some of that false positive? Likely false positive, right? And that's where your team should be spending its time, figuring out that remainder. What was truly bad? What could have been good? And where did this happen? So here's how we really get our players rolling. And again, that's on 177,000 in fraud chargebacks. Here's where we start adding our players, and our players come from simple signals that pertain to the user journey. My favorite one, because there's not too many rows in something like this, my favorite one is order channel, right? Now I've broken down performance based on the 3 order channels that are available in this scenario: web, mobile app, and phone. When I look at that, again, my blended baseline is 6.3 bips of gross loss rate. I can see that web is operating under that baseline, 5.6 bips gross loss rate. And web was responsible for the most GMV. You can see here 231 million in GMV. Now, I also see that my mobile app and my phone were orders of magnitude above my blended baseline gross loss rate. Mobile app was operating at 9.5 bips gross loss rate. The phone channel was 11.3 bips gross loss rate. Now, phone was 3.7 million in total GMV. Mobile app was 47.5 million. So it's still a lot lower than web, but there's some room for improvement or enhanced conservatism in those fields. You can even see we approved only 52.6% of phone orders, while we approved 97.67 on mobile app and 97 on web. There's some room for growth, and we'll talk about what that room looks like. So I'm happy with web. You just saw it there. It's a big mover. It's under the baseline. Like, we could forget about web. So I've excluded web from my look here. So I'm just looking at mobile app and phone, but now I've added a new column in. And that's my buyer account age, how long somebody's had an account with me, right? So it's guest checkout. It's someone who's like less than 30 days old, someone who's years old, those kind of bucketed groups. And when I do that and I add it to the order channel, look what I see. Look what I see. That's a great one. Mobile app and guest checkout was responsible for 168 bips gross loss rate. Remember, our baseline was around 6 bips. So this was like a huge lossy area. What is going on there? If my mobile app and guest checkout is so lossy comparatively, and I had an 88% approval rate on it, what am I missing? What's going on? I might take that information as low-hanging fruit and say to my team, y'all, let's pull all the chargebacks from mobile app guest checkout transactions, and let's kind of figure out the who, what, when, where, why, and how there, right? And then we always talk donuts here, right? Who would be the best person for me to go speak to, best group for me to go speak to? My product team, maybe even my marketing team with this. And I'll say, y'all, I know you're trying to build out mobile app. I know it was maybe like 2-3 times smaller than web, and we're trying to grow that. Why are we allowing for guest transactions on mobile app? I just love to know what the vision is there, because it's very lossy, and it's so much lossier than when we force, quote unquote, somebody to make a buyer account with us in using mobile. So like, you could align yourself with the vision and the kind of drive of your external teams just based on this number alone. I might even bring some case studies in. After your team did the digging, pick like the 2 or 3 juiciest ones and be like, y'all, look what Joe Smith did on a guest transaction on mobile app. It was really funky. Like, maybe what can we do? I have some thoughts about how we could stop this. What do you think? So that's number one. Number two is we want to balance the sweet and the sour. Chef Ramsay taught me that during our time in Temecula, making frittatas together. See, we want to balance the sweet with the sour. So look at this. On my phone channel for registered buyers, this is between 1 month and a year old. We had 3 bips of gross loss rate on, and then 0 bips of gross loss rate on my phone 1 month to 3 month year old cohort. Um, on a decent amount of GMV, about 160,000 in GMV, with 55 and 41% approval rate. We declined a lot of phone traffic from registered buyers. So the question is why? Why did we do that? Are we totally confident that the half of phone buyers who are between 1 month and 12 months old that we declined were true fraud? I take this is more donuts. I take this to my customer support team saying, "Hey, listen, what have you seen? What have you heard?" That's like the classic mob movie thing, right? What have you seen? What have you heard? Because customer support is in possession of the greatest metric in our game in terms of false positive, and that's inbound outreach. Who is calling your support team and saying, "Yo, you blocked me. I'm a real human. Why are you doing this?" They have that metric. And that should be part of your repertoire as well. Because if I'm looking for the efficacy of different rules that I have in different workflows, and I can track the inception of one of those workflows with an uptick in inbound calls, I know I'm doing something wrong, right? So I would take this back to my customer support team and be like, here's what I'm seeing. Here's what we've declined. What are you seeing? Let's level set on this because I want to make sure that your review queues are not going to get swamped on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Black November, whatever it is. So I want to do whatever I can to maybe approve more, auto approve more stuff that would be going to your queues. At the same time, I want to make sure that we're not opening the back door for fraudsters. You're going to learn a lot from that kind of conversation. So I've just cross-threaded you in multiple ways there. And here's an even more fun bit. You could start throwing order amount tiers in there. Maybe what do you do for orders that are under, $100? What do you do for orders that are between 100 and 250 when we're talking mobile app and guest checkout? Well, TLDR here, it's all lossy, but the under $100 area is even lossier, doubly as lossy as the 100 and 250. So you could really just use your imagination as to what you add, what you exclude in order to tell your story, your data story with more data and to back up those suspicions you've had all along. It allows you to make a really nice narrative. It allows you to be able to say, hey, rather than I feel like some weird stuff's going on mobile app, if I add something like IP billing address distance, and I can see that my real loss comes in buckets that are under $100 from IP billing addresses that are very far apart, I can simply say mobile app orders from guest buyers with IP addresses with an egregious geolocated distance from the cardholder's billing address carried a nearly 700 bips gross loss rate during Q4. That's pretty actionable stuff. That's like executive level stuff without saying, yeah, my team seems we see a lot of weird stuff on mobile app. That doesn't really go very far. So that's the method, my friends. And I've given you the framework for it here. I hope you took some screenshots. I've given you the links to my newsletter where I laid it out even in further detail. I'm just wondering to hear from y'all. We talked about A/B testing. We talked about preparedness for agentic. We talked about this method that allows you to figure out what to A/B test. What do you think you can do between now and Black Friday? Where do you need help? And who do you need to get on your side? As you ponder that, my friends, I'm going to take a sip out of my glorious Stanley mug here. I can't wait to hear from you.
Hey, Vito, real quick. I I've missed some of the previous meetings, so y'all may have already talked about this. Um, on the agentic transactions, will you ever talk about the fraud liability? Does it shift if it's agentic based, or does it stay with the merchant?
That is the $1 million question right now, Matthew. First off, it's great to see you. I've missed you, my friend. Second off, it is. I've I consider it to be like VAMP level questioning right now. Remember all like the weirdness we had with VAMP a few months ago? A lot of the people I follow on LinkedIn are asking, and I'm asking the same question. If Visa, MasterCard, and all the card brands are spinning up their own agentic platforms, right? Obviously, something is amiss or something is in the works regarding liability. I think for all of us, we know how that works. It's never truly in our favor as merchants, right? So I would anticipate that y'all are going to be on the hook or your provider is going to be on the hook. But I can anticipate it's going to be just like anything else for either a SNAD INR situation where it's like, I told my bot to buy me like the cheapest shirt, and now I have 10,000 shirts at my front door because they got a better unit price. Or for that situation of bot compromise, someone hacking into someone else's ChatGPT instance, somebody mimicking a Claude or Perplexity bot, all those kind of things. So I would prepare for the worst, Matthew. I'd prepare for the fact that it's going to be on your ledger, and from there, I think, if you unwind a little bit or roll back a little bit and think, right now, I just want to identify what's coming in and see if there are any agentic orders. That can give you a much better, because if I say, oh crap, I've got millions in agentic orders coming in right now, that might be a good time to take that to your processors, take that to, the card brands you do business with and saying, hey, what are y'all planning to do if any of these millions in agentic transactions come back as a chargeback?
Got you. Thank you, Vito. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. It's so good to see you. Shelly, you were saying that was a lot to unpack. I'm sure it was. I've got more in the backpack. Is there anything that I can unpack a little bit further or perhaps spur discussion on in a much more focused manner instead of me just running on vitamin C and Moxie this morning?
I don't know what you took more of, vitamin C or Moxie. I can't tell. The levels are back and forth. No, I think a big thing, and I'll toss this back to my peers who do their own manual review, because I don't do a manual review. We offsource that to a different provider and it's working. It really helps because we're getting so many that we just can't manually review them. And I'm the only one I trust to do that. So I don't got time for that. But it's nice to have that. And so I would be interested to see what everybody else takes from your reporting in the Looker thing to see how their stuff flows. Honestly, I'd love a true comparison of manual review for a company based on percentages to what I'm getting for not so many dollars, but I get a huge ROI on by shifting it off to a different company. So I really would be interested in that. And also then, is anybody using a manual review process through their payment provider? Because that's something we're looking at right now about potentially shifting, but I'm hesitant to do that because this one is completely separate from the payment situation that I use.
Let's hear it, y'all. What are you doing with your MR?
So the one thing, Shelly, that I'd be curious about, because I'm more of a cynic when it comes to that, is if you've got a payment processor that's doing your MRs, what is their incentive behind it? You know what I mean? Like, it seems to me, and just my opinion, I have no data or anything like that, but it just seems to me like you probably would put more stress on you and more work on you to make sure that you're babysitting that process to meet the needs that you have for your company, but you're going to be unique. That would be, so when you said that, I immediately thought, I don't know, because just think of it from an auditing perspective, right? Like the best auditing is done by third party outside groups, right? That have no connection whatsoever to your company because there's no bias, there's no impact. They don't care, and that's the kind of person I think you would want to be doing your MRs, to be honest with you. But that's just my 2 cents on it.
No, Matthew, I totally agree. That's my 2 cents as well. I think we all have to have a level of cynicism on this call, otherwise we wouldn't be where we're at. I trust nobody, and that's fine. It works out really well for me. But that's the thing. If I push it off to this third party who does not have a vested interest other than producing a percentage of wins, and theirs is based on government regulated things that they're doing. So because most of it is used in government and heavily controlled PII. So I trust that more than somebody who's got dollar signs in front of them. I told my company what the ROI was of the amount of transactions that they approved because they just see a transaction number. They were floored. They had no idea that much money was coming out of that because they don't see the dollars. They see the data, and that's it.
Well, I wonder with the data, if we take a step back, what is being sent to manual review and why? There's got to be a criteria there. I'm sure that, Shelley, maybe your team governs that. Is it just like high dollar or certain SKUs, both?
Anything that flows through our current risk, first assessment riskified partner, which is riskified. So we flow through. I've ever never said it. It's not a big deal. I flow through riskified first, and if riskified says it's a high risk or a considerable risk, and they don't put an approved behind it or a decline because they found fraud, it comes back as requires follow up in our internal system, and then that. It's not automated yet, but we're working on it. That triggers a flow for us to send a push notification via email through a platform called ID Data Web. ID Data Web is my secondary, and they're the ones who are generally dealing in two-step authentication, BioGov, take a picture of a selfie, take a picture of your ID and those things. But most of their clients are insurance and government related. So it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with you are authenticating your person to get into highly controlled PII, which is why we went with them because they're so far removed from our industry and dollars.
Yes. Smart. And I mean, you're getting revenue uplift there from everything that would have been declined anyway. You're catching some percentage, and I'm sure, knowing, I've taken some night classes at the SUSE School of Communications. I'm sure you're taking that uplift back and saying, y'all, we found this percentage to be actually good. What are we doing up front? Because when I think about manual review queues, whether it's third party, in-house, whatever, just like any other human process, the more we inundate those humans with stuff, kind of performance will go down. If they're looking at less and more quality, performance will obviously go up. So it's like a two-way street. I go back to my provider and I say, look, you declined all of these. We found them to be good. What can we do to make sure that they don't have to go to that review queue? Is that like a kind of cadence that you've got going on there?
Yeah. So we take it back IDVW, and then we take it back to Riskified to let them know. But IDVW's process is so sound. Of the links that we send out, they call them flows. 80% of those flows are engaged and finished. So 80% just straight off the board are opening it at least and finishing it. Of that 86%, 96, I think was my last year's total, 96 ended in approval rating.
Wow.
96%. And of that 96%, it was more than 2,000 orders between Canada and US. There were 2 chargebacks.
Wow.
2.
Jeez.
I can't make that ROI up to anybody.
No.
Nobody's that good. So to me, it's absolutely worth the dollars to say, yep, not a problem. And they're actually working on paying for, or we're working on finding budget for more automated. So it's a less manual process. But yeah, that's where I would look at it and say, okay, there's that. Where's the manual piece in everybody else's? Because I leave that up to the experts, and it's pretty awesome.
And Shelley, are they only using it to do an identification, and they're just validating that person is who they say they are? Then they're kicking it over to you, and then you make the ultimate decision of accept or reject. Is that right?
We base our decisions. Kenny, that was Kenny, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we base the decision on their flow. If it says approved within their flow, we say, yep, not a problem, and it gets approved because we trust them at that point.
Okay.
Based on our past data. There's no chargeback guarantee or anything if we miss one because it went through their flow. I actually give them those feedback at the end of the year when we do our year-end review with them. I give them, all of the potential. Well, I give them all of the chargebacks, and they go back to their system and say, where did we fail? What can we do to fix it? And sometimes it's a weird glitch. It is what it is. Somebody's really good at getting through it, but I mean, I think the year before, we had less than 10 chargebacks associated with that. Again, the same ROI we're getting there. And they took it and they said, okay, perfect. And they're constantly changing vendors to be the best vendor on the market. So they're pulling a lot of different authentications into their platforms.
Thanks for sharing. It's great.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing, as always. I would love to hear Natalie from Lee Valley Tools. Natalie says, I have a team that reviews every single order that comes through our website. They watch for signs of fraud, and honestly, we catch most of it. Our chargebacks are very, very low. We have a database of customer information that have tried to fraud us in the past. Our system uses match code, name, address, email address to auto-flag fraudulent orders if any of the information on a new order is a match. Natalie, how do you feel about this system? And you're getting a round of applause from Shelly, and you're getting a round of applause from me too. How do you feel about this system going into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or any sort of like sales period where volume is just going to go boop and boop is up?
Honestly, we've been using the system for many, many years and it works. I mean, our volume's probably not as big as some of you guys, but I mean, we have a team of 6 people and we review every single order and they're watching for all the signs of fraud that we've seen in the past, and they catch almost all of it.
Are you bringing them coffee around the holiday time? Does their workload get really busy, or what happens around the holidays?
Workload gets really busy. I mean, on Cyber Monday, we typically probably have about 5 times, 6 times our regular Christmas busy day. And I mean, we just get through it. We plow through it. There's things that we typically watch for. If an email address doesn't really match the name of the person, we have some cities that we don't really like. We have some, provinces that we watch more than we would watch others. We have some items that are typically high fraud over other items. So if any of those things are on an order, we just kind of give it an extra look and accept it or not. And if we don't accept it, we contact the customer for their billing information. And if they're unwilling to give it to us, it's a hard no. We stop the order.
Natalie, that sounds really awesome. I wonder if anything from my moxie fueled drivel earlier kind of stuck in your craw as like, maybe, hey, this is something we can try, because I'm thinking there's probably a lot of things that you approve, pretty quickly, or things that are just easy approvals for your team. Have you made any sort of auto decisioning, auto declining logic whatsoever? Or I saw you say every single one, so it doesn't sound like it, but I'm wondering, is that in the realm of possibility for you?
Yeah. I was looking at your little buckets of phone orders, and, phone orders, we don't really see any fraud, but we also don't manually review those orders because a rep has already entered the order. So they've already spoken to the person. Unless it's over a certain dollar value, we don't typically go back and look at it. But I do like your guest user versus registered user and how long they've been a customer for. But we are watching for other things to make sure like address format is correct, and tariffs and all that stuff right now. But yeah, I think maybe we could do something so that we don't have to look at every order. We'll see.
Well, if you're looking for anything, as you can imagine, I've got plenty of more ideas. I'm happy to connect with you. And you're surrounded by people who are way smarter than me. So you got plenty of people to drop on here. Hey, I know we're pretty much at time. I'm just curious, real quick. I'm thinking this is something we need to really be talking about, especially as we go into the holidays. If you could put in the chat, right? I'm thinking, what about a WhatsApp group? What about like a Telegram group? What about something where when I see something weird or like, y'all, I'm kind of chewing on this like thing I want to do. I don't know if y'all have done it before, da, da, da. Do you think that's something that would be beneficial to you, interesting, useful? Please, you could write in the chat, heck no. This is a family chat. You can write heck no if you feel like that wouldn't be useful to you. If you think it would be useful to you, say, yeah, I use WhatsApp. Yeah, I use MySpace. GeoCities, whatever your the Facebook wall. Remember that one when it was just a big old text box? Like, yeah, please, let's make a Facebook wall where we can do this. And yeah, just let me know, because I think as we go into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we have such a wealth of information here that is alien to me. Like it's all you, it's not me. So yeah, would love to hear from y'all. Thank you for your time. This is a conversation that can keep going on. I appreciate you sticking around for a few more minutes with you. You are the light in my week. It is an absolute blessing to be with you today. Check out the newsletter. Check out the videos if you want anything. Family chat. Let's do a big old family chat. I love that, Jamie. We're family. Thank you for coming out. Have a beautiful and blessed rest of your week. Until next Wednesday, my friends. Have a great one. Cheers, y'all.